Hi everyone, it's April Garwood from Banana Moon Studio. Today I will be walking you through one of the beginning of one of the front panels of my newest design, Stroud crochet cover. This is where we do some of the shaping. So let's turn this camera around and get started. In this video, I will be demonstrating the stitch pattern and the shaping for the beginning of this front panel of my Stroud Swim cover, which you can see here. This is a free pattern on my website. I'll be using Cascade Yarns Hampton, which is a cotton and linen blend, and I'll be using a size H or 5mm crochet hook. So let's get started on this. I apologize for any background noise. My dogs are up here chewing on bones. Okay, so slip knot on the hook, and I'm not going to be walking you through the making of this whole pattern because that would be a very long video. But though I would not say it's complicated, probably the most complicated part of this pattern is shaping the V-neck in the front. And by the time we finish shaping one side of that V-neck, you'll know everything you need to know in order to complete this pattern. So I'm going to be starting on page 3 of the pattern where it says front panel, left shoulder. All right, I'm just going to work with the smallest size, so I'll be chaining 26. All right, so first thing, this note is going to be about the increases, which I'll show you as I'm working. So we're going to start in row 1, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, chain 1, skip the next chain. Then this is single crochet in next chain, chain 3, skip next chain, single crochet in next chain, chain 3, skip 3 chains, and repeat from the star across. So let's see what that looks like. All right, so we're going to be skipping the first chain since my first single crochet is going to be placed in the second. The first chain is not the loop on the hook, it's the chain between the hook and my thumb here. I'll skip that and single crochet into this one under both front and back loops. And then chain 1 and skip the next chain and single crochet in the next. So I'll skip this one and single, whoops, got my yarn wrapped around my hook there. Single crochet in this one. And then chain 3, skip the next chain, this one, and single crochet in the next. Chain 3, and then we're going to skip 3 chains right here, and then we go back to the star, so single crochet in the next chain after we skip the 3. 1, 2, and 3, so we work into this one. And then it's chain 3 and skip the next chain. All right, so at this point, we're going to be repeating across a ways. Okay, so I just did skip next chain, single crochet in next chain, and here is where I end my last repeat because of the double star. So now I will chain one, skip the next chain, and single crochet in the last chain. So there's my chain one, skip this one, and single crochet in the last chain. All right, and that completes my row one. For row two, I need to turn, and this is my first right side row. That's what this RS in parentheses means. Okay, so now I'm going to chain one, single crochet in the first stitch, that's right here, skip the next stitch, and shell in the next chain. Now on the first page, maybe? It's on the first or the second page, I explain exactly how the shell is done. I think it's actually on the second page, but I'm going to show you right here how to do this specific shell stitch. Shell stitches can be done in various ways, so you need to see the one that is specific to this stitch pattern. Okay, so skipping the next stitch means that I'm going to skip this one right here, and then shell in this chain space. I will wrap once so that I can double crochet in this chain space, chain, double crochet again, and chain, double crochet, and chain, and double crochet. So for this shell, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet stitches, and each is separated by a chain. So there's 1, 2, 3 chain spaces. And then after we do the shell in the next chain space, then we're going to skip the next stitch, single crochet over the chain 3 space into center skipped chain a foundation chain. That may seem a little complicated. I'm going to show you what that looks like. We are going to skip this stitch right here, and then we are going to single crochet in, so underneath this chain space I skipped 3 chains. I'm going to place a single crochet in the center of those 3 skipped chains, and it's going to, as I work it, enclose this chain space inside of it. So the way that's going to go is I am going to place my hook under both loops of that center skipped chain, and here you can see I have my hook through the single crochet and my working yarn is going over that chain, and I'm just going to work my single crochet just like that, and that chain 3 that I worked is now trapped inside of my single crochet stitch. Okay, then we're going to repeat from the star. So skip the next stitch and shell again. So my next stitch I'm skipping is here, yarn over to double crochet in this next chain space. Completed the shell, and then let's go back and look here. After completing the shell, skip the next stitch. Now we're at our double star, so we're going to end our last repeat at the double star and then single crochet in the last stitch. So that last stitch I was skipping as part of the repeat is here. I'm going to place my last single crochet stitch right here in the very last stitch. And I've completed that row, and I will turn. All right, so now I am going to chain 4 for the start of row 3. And as it explains in the parentheses, that counts as a double crochet stitch plus a chain 1. So you can just pretend that the first 3 chains here are actually a double crochet stitch, and then this 4th chain is that chain 1. I'll skip the first 2 stitches and then single crochet in the next chain space. So when I skip the first 2 stitches, I am skipping this one and this one. So I will single crochet in this chain space. And then I will chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, and single crochet in the next chain space. So here's my chain 3. I will be skipping this stitch and this one, as well as the chain space in between them, and placing a single crochet right here in this chain space. And then let's see, I did skipping here. Okay, so now I chain 3, skip the next 3 stitches, and repeat from the star across. So I will chain 3, skipping 3 stitches skips this double crochet, this single crochet, and this double crochet, and I'm putting a single crochet stitch right here in this chain space. And then I'll be repeating across. And then I was ending my last repeat at the double star where I single crocheted in that chain space. That's right there. So now I'm going to skip to this point where I will chain 3, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the last stitch, and then turn. So chain 3, and this is part of my first increase to make the V-neck. Normally, if I were just working even in pattern, I would only be chaining 1 here, just like I have on this side. I have a double crochet, chain 1, but on this side I have a chain 3 and then a double crochet because we're starting that very first increase to make the V-neck. So chain 3, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the last. So I am skipping this double crochet here and placing a double crochet in this last stitch. All right, and so my start to this increase is making this chain space larger. So now to begin row 4, of course I need to turn, and then I'm going to chain 1 and single crochet in the first stitch. And then I'm going to shell in the next chain space, skip the next stitch. All right, so that's where I'm going to yarn over for this double crochet, and I'm going to put my shell right here in this extra large chain space that I made. Okay, so I finished my shell in the next chain space, skip the next stitch, single crochet over next chain space into center chain space of shell below. So skipping this single crochet that's under my left thumb, and then we are going to single crochet. So this shell below right here is where we're looking. The center chain space of that shell is right here. I'm going to single crochet into that, and I'll be enclosing this chain 3 inside of the stitch. So single crochet right into there, and it locks that chain 3 inside of it. Okay, And then I will skip the next stitch and repeat from the star by placing a shell in the next chain space. So skipping the next stitch is going to be this one right here. I'm going to now place a shell in this chain space right here. So I'll yarn over for my double crochet. And from here I'll be repeating across my piece. And where we are right now, we're in row 4. I just did a single crochet over the next chain space into the center chain space of the shell below. I'll skip the next stitch, which is going to be this one under my left thumb. And then I've gotten across to my last stitch. I only have my turning chain left here, which remember counts as a double crochet chain 1. So when it says last stitch, it's actually talking about part of my turning chain. I will double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 double crochet in the second chain of that turning chain. So second means we're counting from here closer to where my hook is. So in the second of those chains, here's the first, here's the second, I'll be placing my hook under both loops of that. And I will be doing a double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochet stitches all in that same place. All right, and then if you need to, you can count. This smallest size should have 4 shells plus 1 half shell. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 shells and this half shell right here. All right, so now we'll turn and we are on row 5. I will chain 1 as it says here. And then it says single crochet in the first stitch, chain 1 and skip the next stitch. So single crochet right here in this last double crochet, chain 1, and skipping the next stitch is going to be skipping this double, and then I will single crochet in the next chain space and chain 3. So right here in this chain space, a single, chain 3, skip the next 3 stitches and single crochet in the next chain space. So I'm skipping this double, this single, and this double, and I'll place a single crochet here in this chain space. And then I will chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, and repeat from the star across by putting a single crochet in the next chain space. So here's my 3 chains. I'm going to skip this double and this one and place a single crochet in this chain space, and then from there I'll be repeating across. So I skipped these 2 stitches, and here I've worked across to the last chain space and placed a single crochet in this last chain space right here. And then I will chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the last. So here's chain 1, yarn over, double crochet in this last single right here. Okay, and that finishes row 5. And we're ready to begin row 6, which begins with a chain 3, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the first stitch. I've already done the chain 3, and double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet all in the first stitch. This essentially counts as half of a shell. All right, skip the next stitch, single crochet over the next chain space, enter the center chain space of the shell below. We've seen what that looks like already. We'll skip this first single crochet and place our hook down here and single crochet, and skip the next stitch, shell into the next chain space. So we'll be skipping this single crochet here, and then I need to begin a shell with a double crochet in this chain space. Okay, so we shelled in the next chain space. We'll repeat from the start by skipping the next stitch and single crocheting over the chain space. All right, and from there we're going to be repeating across. Okay, so I just finished shell in the next chain space, and I've repeated across to the last 2 stitches. So I'll skip the next one and single crochet in the last. So that's skipping this one under my left thumb, and now I will single crochet in this last one here. And then I will turn and begin row 7 with a chain 4, which just like before counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. So then I will skip the first 2 stitches and single crochet in the next chain space. So I'll be skipping this single crochet and this double and placing a single crochet right here in this chain space. Chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches and single crochet in the next chain space. I'll be skipping this double and placing a single crochet here. And then I will chain 3, skip 3 stitches and go back to the start, single crochet in the next chain space, and then I'll be repeating across. So there's chain 3, skipping 1, 2, and 3 stitches and placing a single crochet here in this chain space, and repeating across. Okay, so I've done skipping the next 3 stitches and then across to the last chain space, which was this one right here, and I actually already placed the single crochet in the last chain space. So now I'll chain 1, skip the next stitch, and single in the last. So I will chain 1, skipping this double crochet, and then single crocheting in the top of my turning chain, which counts as a double crochet. Okay, so that finishes row 7. I've turned. Now we are going to chain 1, which is right here, single crochet in the first stitch, skip the next stitch, and shell in the next chain space. So skipping the next stitch is going to be this one under my left thumb, and I'll yarn over to place a double crochet in this chain space to start my shell. And right here, skip the next stitch, single crochet over the next chain space into the center chain space of the shell below, and we'll repeat from the star across. So I'll be skipping this single crochet here, going into the center chain space of the shell below for a single crochet, and repeating across. Okay, I just completed the single crochet over the next chain space into the center chain space of the shell below. Now I've worked across the last 2 stitches, which is this single crochet here, as well as my turning chain, which counts as a double crochet in a chain 1. So now I will skip the next stitch and then double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet in the second chain of the turning chain. So I'm skipping this stitch, and I will count chains from closest to me. So here's 1 and here is 2. So I will yarn over and place my hook under both loops of this chain, and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and 1 more double crochet. And that finishes row 8. I will turn, and row 9 begins with chain 1, single crochet in the first stitch. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next chain space. So chain 1, then I will skip this double under my right thumb and single crochet in this chain space. I'm on row 9. Okay. Chain 3, skip the next 3 stitches and single crochet in the next chain space. So here is my chain 3, 1, 2, 3 stitches to skip and single crochet in this chain space. Chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches and then repeat from the star across. So there's a chain 3, skipping 2 stitches, placing a single here, and repeating across this row. Okay, so I just did skip the next 2 stitches and repeat from the start across to the last 2 stitches, chain 3, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the last stitch. So here I will chain 3. So once you skip the 2 stitches of this shell and you place that single crochet here, then you are going to chain 3, skip the next stitch, and double crochet in the last. So I'll be skipping this double and placing a double crochet here. This chain 3 space that I am creating right here is going to be the start of my next increase. So now with row 10, first of all I need to turn. I will begin with a chain 1 and a single crochet in the first stitch and a shell in that chain 3 space. So single crochet here in this double and a shell right here in this first chain space. Okay, that finishes my shell. Then I'll skip the next stitch, single crochet over the next chain space into the center chain space of the shell below. So I'll be skipping this stitch and placing a single crochet in this chain space. And then skip the next stitch and shell into the next chain space and repeat across. At this point in the video, you've seen clearly how to work the arcade stitch pattern, and I've also shown you twice how to make the increases for the V-neck. So I'm going to stop recording for a while and finish this piece and then come back and show you when this piece and the other front shoulder are finished, how to bring the two together to begin working the main body of the front panel. Now I want to show you when we have finished the right and left front panels and finish shaping the neckline. When we work the first row of the front panel main body, that's when we're going to join these two together. So we start with our right front panel. Well, I should say the left front panel was finished up to a non-shell row, and that's where we are here, and fastened off. The right front shoulder, now we're working the first row of the main body. So we start by doing this half shell over here, which is the double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And then we are going to be working our shells across. And then we're down here where we have a single crochet into the space from that shell below right here, and then skipping the next stitch, and it says shell in last chain space of right front shoulder. So that's where I am right now, is I have started this shell. So I'm going to, oh, I missed a chain here. Okay, so I will chain. All right, I'm just finishing this shell in the very last chain space here. And I had originally had this fastened off and joined in some new yarn. This is not proper joining technique, but that's okay. I just need to show you how to do these stitches, so don't worry about that. Okay, so there is that shell completed. And then I have single crochet 2 together over 4th chain of the turning chain. And the first stitch of the left front shoulder piece. So that is going to look like, let me double check, 4th chain. Okay, so a lot of these chains are covered up here, but I can count from the bottom, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually crunched up really small here, so I'm just going to, what is that? Normally you would work under both front and back loops of this chain, but for some reason mine is crushed up really small, so I'm just going to stick it in there. Okay, so single crochet 2 together. I'm going to pull a loop through here, and then I'm going to come over to this piece and insert my hook in the first stitch here, and I'm going to pull my yarn through that. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'll yarn over and pull through all 3 of those. That's a single crochet 2 together. And then I will shell in the next chain space and repeat from the star, repeat from the star to the double star. So that is basically going back to working in pattern. We're going to be skipping a stitch, single crocheting over the chain space into the center chain space of the shell below, skipping a stitch, and shelling in the next chain space. So basically we're just going back to working in pattern at this point. We're going to place a shell here. I've got a lot of ends in my way at the moment. So right here in this chain space we will work a shell. Oops. And then this single crochet into the shell below, and then from here I'll finish out the row in pattern. But let me pull these ends out of the way, and you can see how we have joined now these 2 panels together by placing the single crochet stitch here and a shell in these chain spaces on either side. And from here on out, you're going to finish working across this piece in pattern, and then from here on out, finishing the main body is just working in pattern for quite a few more rows because this is a tunic. But we're establishing the pattern with these rows and then forming our repeat of rows 2 through 5. So then as you work in pattern, these numbers are counted from the very beginning of the shoulder. So you're starting here as you're counting those rows and going all the way down your piece as you count to make sure that you have the correct number of rows. And you'll just be repeating rows 2 through 5 over and over. So finish a row 5, repeat, you go back to row 2. You'll be repeating over and over to complete the number of rows for the front panel. So that explains how we shape the neckline increases and place the 2 shoulder panels together. Look in the description underneath this video to find the link to this free pattern, and also to my website and where you can subscribe to my newsletter. And please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I hope that all of you have a lovely day.